in this Ford Credit Fiesta Challenge race. But there's certainly going to be a big problem over driver identification, because the cars are identical except for the livery and except for the fact that two of them are 1984 models and the rest 1983. And driving one of those two 1984 models, number one, is a man that many of you know very, very well indeed, because it is Mike Smith. And yes, it is the Mike Smith, the man who presents show business, the man who got up at 3:30 this morning to present Breakfast Time, after which he came down here still with the makeup on his face and a ring of powder round his neck, which he's since washed off. And he did well in Breakfast Time. He hasn't done so well in practice, as you can see, because Mike Smith is well down on the 4th row of the grid, pole position of which is occupied by number 9, Graham Churchill, who won the first round, the Donington round of this challenge series. There have been 2 rounds so far. There are 14 altogether, some of which are on the continent. Now, the cars are all 1600cc Fiesta XR2s. They're all on Pirelli tyres. They all produce about 110 brake horsepower, give or take 1 or 2, and they can be vital, the ones that you get extra. They all weigh of the order of 740 kilograms, and this is go, because there is no warm-up lap in this, and into the lead goes Ian Briggs, number 36, the Reading newsagent, who is in 2nd position in the championship, which is very much a needle match between himself and number 6, Brian Farminer, so look out for him. And as they come up to the complex now, it's like the North Circular on a working morning, all together, all Fiestas, round the left-hander. That's the left-hander at Cobb. Now they go into the right-hander at Seagraves, and it looks as though Ian Briggs has made that vital break which can make the difference between victory and possibly being barged off the circuit in a race as hectic as this one is going to be. So, lap 1, it's a 10-lap race altogether. Tiff, you have driven and tested these cars. How do you like them?
Well, yes, Murray, they're in racing form. It's all bravery. You can brake incredibly late and just hurl the car into the corner if you want to. To go round quickly on your own, you need to lap as smoothly as possibly, which is what Ian Briggs should be thinking of doing now. But for overtaking and diving up the inside, there's Mike Smith well up. A good start in about 5th place already. But you can dive up the inside and hurl the car into the corner and still get out the other side.
Down round the left-hander at Church Corner into the club chicane, and there's going to be some jostling and shoving and bumping and barging here, I'll be bound, as Briggs leads coming up to the end of lap 1 with 9 to go after he has crossed the line. Getting your line right out of the left-hander is very, very difficult. If you go up onto the curbs, you can derange the suspension, and it looks as though they've all made it. Briggs leads. In 2nd position is Mick McInerney. In 3rd position it is Anthony Pownall, and the rest goes streaming through, and one of them very badly left, staggering along, limping along, and off the circuit. And it looks to me like Terry Stone, the 45-year-old Sheffield mechanic. Indeed it is. Terry Stone, number 99, out of the race, the oldest man in the race, which hasn't lasted very long for him. And it's still Briggs leading, and you can see now that despite the fact that the cars are virtually identical, because Ford issue a very detailed specification sheet saying what you can do and what you can't do, and apart from blueprinting the engine, which means to say taking it apart and putting it together very, very carefully indeed, and making sure that the tolerances are as small as they possibly can be, there is not a lot you can do to increase performance. So in the end analysis, it is all down to the driver.
Yes, certainly indeed. One driver we saw right at the start, where poor Michael Ireland, who was 3rd fast, he's absolutely bogged the start for some reason. He's coming back up through the field. But out in the lead, it's the 2 other front row men, Graham Churchill and Ian Briggs. Churchill now clawing back to Briggs. And here in these relatively underpowered saloons, there's a huge amount of slipstream to be taken advantage of if you can get up the boot of the guy in front.
Briggs from Reading leads Churchill, who significantly enough lives in Silverstone, a handy place to live for a racing driver. So Ian Briggs, the newsagent, the man who won the 1973 Esso Saloon Championship, so he's been in racing quite a long time, leads in 2nd position. It's McInerney now. McInerney is in second position, ahead of Anthony Pownall, who's in third place. In fourth position, it's Brian Farminer, and we're expecting now. McInerney's making his challenge. He's come right up, he's closed the gap. That break which Briggs had at the beginning of the race hasn't done him a lot of good because McInerney's been able to close the gap. But as in so many classes in motor racing, and particularly one like this, where the cars are so equal on performance, catching is one thing, getting past is another. And McInerney, that's number 7, who comes from Brookmans Park, where he runs a very unusual business, one concerned with removing asbestos from derelict buildings, and who's raced in the Fiesta Championship for the last 4 years, is really harrying the leader. And look what a battle it is between those other 4 for the 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th places, as the leaders, Briggs and McInerney, round the right-hander of Church. Now they're all coming together. They're getting within each other's slipstream and they get a chance to close up.
Yes, this is where, Murray, we start seeing maybe 3 abreast down to the chicane. Of course, it's Graham Churchill's right at the back of the bunch in the other white Fiesta. But is McInerney looking for a way past Ian Briggs at the chicane, and surprisingly not trying anything too drastic. Mike Smith there in 4th place in the middle of the bunch there, and I think that's Anthony Pownall in 3rd place.
Yeah, Mike Smith significantly is in one of the only 2 new Fiestas, and he's challenging for 3rd position now. There is Mike Smith. From breakfast time this morning to Thruxton at lunchtime, is now in 4th position and chasing very hard indeed. Tony Pownall, the 3rd position man, that's number 10, Tony Pownall in the light blue Fiesta, with rubbing his rear bumper. There is Mike Smith. Now the 1984 cars are lighter, they weigh 715 kilograms, compared with the 760 kilograms of the 1983 cars, but they haven't got an advantage because they have to carry ballast to make sure that they all weigh the same. And there is Mike Smith, metaphorically brushing the sleep out of his eyes, pressing on. He's close to Pownall. Pownall is close to McInerney. McInerney has now got a bit of a gap between himself and Ian Briggs, the leader, and behind Mike Smith it is Brian Farminer as Smith challenges Pownall. Pownall takes the inside line, closes up on McInerney. The first 4 together, then there's a gap, then the next, the 5th, 6th and 7th.
All slipstreaming there, all nose to tail, getting the slipstream, the toe of the car ahead, Murray, and looking for the inside, looking for the outside. That's Pownall trying to go down the outside of McInerney into the chicane. He could make it, will he, won't he? They teeter on the brink in these Fiestas, and Mike Smith trying to get through. There, over the shortcut, Pownall over the grass. Any line will do, and Mike Smith could jump to 2nd here if he's lucky.
Well, I don't think he's going to be penalised for that. Tony Pownall, well, he's penalised for that. My goodness, Tony Pownall, he should be perfectly all right. He is a very, very battered Ford Fiesta. Tony Pownall, thanks to the multi-point safety belt, saved from any damage, and as you can see, extremely agile, very angry, desisting the marshals. I don't know quite what's going through his mind, but obviously you are extremely rattled under the circumstances that Pownall is. He has lost the car. Now let's have a look at it again. As through on the inside goes McInerney, chasing Briggs, the leader, in the red Fiesta. Mike Smith close up behind them. Pownall cuts in front of Smith, goes into the curb because Smith's tight up behind him, and McInerney goes across the left curb, forces Pownall into the right, who comes off, rejoins the track thanks to the shorter line, having gained a place. So temporarily Pownall is 2nd, McInerney is 3rd, Smith is 4th, Briggs is leading, and then the disaster which hit Tony Pownall as he completed the lap, and he spins off, nudged out and into the barrier now.
Well, Murray, yeah, there really, Pownall, he tried to shut the door on Mike Smith, but Mike Smith had the extra speed out of the chicane. Smith was already halfway alongside Pownall, and I think although Pownall might try and blame Mike Smith, it wasn't Mike's fault, he was there.
And of course there's still very much a race on, and Briggs in the red Fiesta, that's number 36, has got a breathing space here. That multiple shunt and shuffle behind him has created the gap that he needed, and now McInerney, who has been, and there is Smith. Mike Smith goes into the pits. He's obviously in trouble as a result of the panel crunch, I suspect. It looks to me as though he's worried about a wheel rubbing on the wheel arch from the way his mechanic ran his hand round the tyre. No, well, whatever it is, Mike Smith, his day is run at Thruxton. It started early enough, and now breakfast time and show business. Mike Smith is out of the race, having presented the driving force programme, incidentally, on Friday, so he's had a very, very busy week, and now he can get some rest, not that he would want to get it this way. And Briggs is still leading. We're on lap 6 now, out of 10, in this 23.5, just a whisker over, 23.6 to be exact, mile race. And Ian Briggs, who started his career in minis, went on to Formula 4 2000, was one of the top runners in the 1983 Fiesta Championship, won at Holland last year, and Mike Smith has retired because he has had a total loss of coolant. What caused that, I know not, but it really doesn't matter as far as Mike Smith is concerned. He's out of the race. Briggs leads, second in the Leyland Challenge. There's Mike Smith walking in. And Briggs has already finished second at Donington this year, is second in the championship, which is currently led by Brian Farminer, who is in third position as Briggs crosses the line. Now there's the third car, number 6, Brian Farminer, who's a naval-based technician at Gosport. Now, he is leading the championship with 18 points, compared with Ian Briggs on 17. So it's going to be a very close run thing for the championship, and even closer if number 6 Farminer can get ahead of Vic McInerney, the driver of the white Fiesta, in front of him. In 4th position at the moment, it's Robin Parsons, then Graham Churchill, who's 3rd in the championship, and then Graham Hathaway, the ex-rallycross champion of Britain, who's taken to the circuits this year for a change, and is doing very well at them. In the bag, do you think, Tiff, for Ian Briggs?
Well, Murray, it certainly seems a bit of a mid-race breather. They've still got 4 laps to go, and that accident rather split them up a bit. But there's no reason why they can't work hard together now. They're all now trying to drive very smoothly to keep the cars going in as straight a line as possible to get the power on and catch the one in front. But once you get about another, if he can halve that distance to Ian Briggs, then McInerney might be able to get in the slipstream and claw his way back up to the leader. But at the moment, he's got to concentrate on driving very smoothly, getting out of the corners quickly to try and close that gap to get it within dicing distance.
Mike Smith's radiator on his Ford Fiesta was damaged in the shunt with Tony Panel. That's what caused the problem which made him retire. And the gap between Briggs, the leader, and McInerney in 2nd place is a mere 1.3 seconds as they enter the 8th lap out of 10. And they're well down the field. Well, not well down the field in terms of getting the lead. It's Graham Hathaway, but Hathaway, number 82 there in the distinctive yellow Fiesta, is actually in 6th position. There he is. And closing up on Graham Churchill, who you probably saw lock his wheels there, and may even have flat spotted his tyres. Now this is the battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th positions. In 3rd place, it's still Brian Farminer in the black Fiesta. Challenging him is Robin Parsons.
Yes, Robin Parsons, Murray, at the beginning of practice, he was quickest. He then spent the second half of practice in the pits with some unknown engine problem, and he's certainly come up from 8th on the grid. He wasn't in the leading bunch earlier, and he's the one coming up through the field, now giving championship leader Brian Farman a lot of trouble. So Robin Parsons, I think, about to move up another place, maybe into chicane, if he can stay right up the boot down the straight now.
Yes, very quick driver, Robin. Fastest lap at Donington, so he's used to getting the best out of the Fiesta. Now's his chance. And of course, coming up fast behind Parsons, you can see in the white Fiesta is Graham Churchill. And he's going to go and try and take the place on the inside at the chicane, but none of it. Parsons holds the line, keeps close to the left, close to the right. Brian Farminer exits it, and the gap between the first two is down from 1.3 to 0.6 seconds. Here's the battle for third. Number 6 is Brian Farminer, then Parsons, then Graham Churchill, and there's Graham Hathaway. They're the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, just disappearing from our sight. The leaders are getting ever closer, and there is the battle for the lead, with the battle for the third position raging behind them on this lap 9 out of 10. The leaders, Ian Briggs in the red Fiesta, who has led all the way, driven an immaculate race. McInerney trying to put a stop to his lead.
Yes, 2 definite dices now, Murray. They're the leading dice. We're going to have 1 dice for the lead over the next lap and a half, and we're going to have 1 dice for third place.
And they're coming up to the quickest part of the course, 6,800 RPM, 112 miles an hour, and they have been timed at Zandvoort, the Dutch circuit, at 120 miles an hour. And there's a new third place man, because Robin Parsons has got ahead of Farminer. There's Robin Parsons, number 21 in the yellow Fiesta, and behind Farminer is Graham Churchill. So Brian Farminer desperately needs to get ahead of Parsons again in order to stand a chance of retaining his championship lead as they come down to Club Chicane. Absolutely together, and Farminer's going to take it. Oh no, it's Churchill. Churchill's going to get through in the white Fiesta, and he's done it. Churchill, with 1 move, has moved up into third position from 5th by passing Brian Farminer, and there are the leaders starting the 10th and last lap. There's the battle for third, with Churchill followed by Farminer, followed by Parsons, and Graham Hathaway is taking advantage of the fact that these 3 are falling over each other to close up on them, and there's going to be a raging battle for that third place between 4 cars very shortly. But it's still Churchill, a nose ahead as they go into the right-hander at Campbell, the left-hander at Cobb, and now the right-hander at Seagrave. And McInerney is still in second place. Now there goes Churchill third, Farminer fourth, Parsons fifth, Hathaway right up with them, and you see the 2 battling for the lead, just disappearing from sight. And there they are, Briggs in the lead, McInerney in second place, Briggs from Reading, McInerney from Brookmans Park in 1983 Fiestas.
Well, I think Briggs has got the measures so far of McInerney and shouldn't keep it. But my money's on Graham Churchill. They're already making up 1 place. I reckon he's going to come from about 7th to 2nd on this straight coming up now. The last time down the straight.
And there are the leaders with a very short distance to go. And McInerney's got it all to do, and his only chance of doing it is at the chicane, which they're approaching now. Ian Briggs has got to hold that front line and get his exit line and his exit revs absolutely right to hold the lead. And he's through well. McInerney's not going to do it now, but look at the battle for third. It's still Churchill. It's still Farminer in 4th position. Hathaway is up into 5th place. Parsons is down to 6th. The race has been won by Briggs. McInerney is 2nd. Churchill is in 3rd position. Farminer, and let's just take a check on that. The winner then, Ian Briggs. In 2nd place, Mick McInerney. In 3rd position, Graham Churchill. In 4th position was Graham Hathaway. In 5th position was Robin Parsons. And in 6th position, Michael Ireland. 3 come here, and you've had this cataclysmic problem. What happened in the event?
Well, the grid was so close together. There were 10 cars covered by less than a second on that grid, and I felt that I got the race really right. I was taking them at the rate of 1 a lap, and it was all in my head. I knew what I wanted to achieve without touching anybody, and it just seemed a bit to me as though that guy didn't want me to get past anyway, and he weaved several times on the preceding lap. He chopped me at the chicane. And then when I tried to take him on the straight coming up here.
Well, you're coming into the chicane on the box now. Take us through it in your mind.
Well, as far as I can remember, I came into the chicane much, much faster than him. He seemed to get a little bit screwed up in the way he was going through the chicane. Coming out of it, I decided to try and take him on the right-hand side of his car, on the driver's side. And I actually pulled up alongside him going down the straight, and he just drove across the front of the car. Whether he knew I was there or what, I don't know. It's very close racing, very easy to make simple mistakes.
A very damaged motor car for him, Mike. What about your car?
Well, mine, unfortunately, the impact damaged some hoses on it, and the next corner I arrived at, or 2 corners later, I arrived with an engine temperature of 110, the engine steaming, and suddenly no steering on the car because all the oil and water went on the front tyres. And at that point I thought, well, if I continue now, I won't finish anyway, so I might as well take it to the pits and save the engine, so that's what we did.
Is it any consolation to you to know that you got the fastest lap?
You're joking!
You did.
Oh gosh, how wonderful.
So it is a consolation, obviously.
I feel like you did when you finished in that tank the other night.
Oh, no, you don't.
Oh, that's great news. That's great news.
Well, there we are, a happy Mike Smith after all, and up there in the box, I hope.